Okay, the last thing we want to talk about with our fonts and text are how to do certain things as far as time and or other information with numbers. So to begin, I'm going to drag a font into my scene tree here. And we are familiar from watching the other videos with the clock that is inside of the font box itself. You have a clock special here, which you can turn on and off. And there are other ways to do a clock within Vizrt in case you don't need that. And one of the ways is to use what's called the system time. And if we come into our plugins and go down into our tools folder, there is a plugin within that called system time. And we can take this and drag it right onto a font or text container, and it converts that font or text container into a clock. And if we click on that system time, there are a few things that you'll need to know. Number one is that you have a format up here and it's set to HMS by default, and you can use this little key within the system time to tell you what each is. So HMS stands for hours, minutes, seconds. Now there is a language between English, German, Norwegian that you can change, and you have a seconds offset. So if you need to offset this clock, I'm increasing the or decreasing the offset there. You can see that it affects the clock as far as the seconds and the count goes. You also have a system time zone that you could add in down here in case you needed to show it as well. So that's just a simple way to very quickly create a clock within Vizrt T4 using a font container. Now we're going to get rid of that system time onto that font, and when we drag that off, the numbers still remain, and you can come over to your text box and just if you wanted to get rid of that numbers in there, because we're going to use one more plugin from this folder, and it's called the jack, and I'm going to go ahead and drag that onto our font. And again, once we do that, it changes it into a number. And this is another way that you can use a clock. It stands for just another clock, jack. And then we have our mode within here. So we have a time, and then we have a date mode. We have a year format once we switch this over to date, and if you switch it over to time, you'll get a few different options here. So within time, we have an hour format, which you could turn on or off. You have a minute format and a second format. You have the separator choice here, so you can change that separator. You have a blank mode, a minute separator as well, AM, PM, minute correction, hour correction, and second correction. So there's a lot of different settings within this clock that you can use to make either a clock and or a date that will automatically update every time you open the scene. So while we are on numbers, there are two other plugins right within this tools folder that you can use to manipulate your fonts, and these are the counter and advanced counter. So let's start with the counter first. I'm going to drag this down onto my font container. I'm going to click on my counter, and if we go in, we don't have many options within the counter plugin. What we do have is this number. So as I increase or decrease that number, you can see that that counter changes, and the idea being here that you would set a keyframe at one number and then increase it to the other number that you need and set a keyframe and have it count up and or down in relation to where you set your keyframes. So that's the counter, and then you have one other option here called the advanced counter. When you drag that on there, again, it changes your font into a numerical value. And here we have additional options. We have a value decimal that we can change. You have leading blanks, which you can cut or blank or put something in the front of. And then you have a format down here that you can actually format this a little bit closer. Again, the theory being that you come over to your advanced counter and you set where you want your number to start. You would set a keyframe and then just readjust to that number which you need it to go to or go down to, and you hit a set keyframe again and it sets the keyframe, which allows us to count up or down to the number that you need to. Now finally, you're going to notice one last plugin here. It's called text parameters, and text parameters is really no longer valid because everything you can do within the text parameters you can now do within the font box itself. So the text parameters is an old plugin, but you can still use it to do things such as tracking, kerning, word spacing. You still have a drop shadow on here that you can use. But like I said, all of this is now found within the font options itself within the font. So there are just a few more functions or plugins that you can use along with your font or text containers to set up your scenes.